Who has ever felt randomly called to do some random shit for a deity? Raise your hand. They start poking you, bugging you. It's like a little prickling in the back of your head. Anyway, hi, my name is Samantha. Sam, Samantha, what have you. This is Shadow Harvest, my random journal, and this is Youtober. So there's a video a day happening on this channel until October has wrapped up. But today I wanted to talk about being called to do a certain thing for a deity and kind of talking about my recent experiences with this with Persephone and what that actually is and means, and kind of going forth and explaining that a little bit more. I think it's interesting when we're having these discussions on social media about paganism and deities and working with something that is a different energy entity being, like, it's otherworldly in a sense, you know what I mean? That it can get very convoluted because a lot of times I think we're just kind of coming up with metaphors and meanings. We're trying to explain it in the best ways we can, and it's never as succinct because it is so much of like a very heady experience, and then a lot can get lost in translation. It's basically what I'm saying. So Persephone recently has been coming in and poking me and bugging me, wanting to do some sort of artistic work. I felt very inspired around her, and by that I mean by her poking me, it just kind of feels like this. I have an idea pop up about Persephone, a painting I could do in regards to her, and you know, it kind of gets like the same way when you have any sort of other creative idea. You're like, oh, that's interesting, that's an idea. Like when you have an idea for an outfit, or you know, you have a craving for a food. That's really kind of what it feels like. It's like in the back of your mind, just a little craving of something you feel the urge to do. It doesn't necessarily feel like a voice popping into my head, or even like a little like nudge on the shoulder to like a little ghost thing up my spine. It's more just a very like a weird craving that I can't get rid of. And so I had this bits and pieces around my house that I always collect, and if I don't feel like I can turn them into something useful or recycle them in some way, I somehow always turn them into art. So I had this little metal thing, and I primed it with some paint, and then just did this with some watercolor. I'm not entirely happy with it overall, but I had this idea of like Persephone in like traditional Grecian garb staring off into the black abyss type of situation. I've kind of just had this in the back of my mind, although I think I might, since it is watercolor, it's a little more malleable even though it's dry right now, so I feel like I might mold this a little bit and have her looking over her shoulder a little bit like she's looking at you. There's something very odd to me about the idea of drawing any subject facing away from you in a thing. It gives me an uneasy feeling. I don't necessarily know why. Maybe it's like a sense of like, if I'm doing this and it's like Persephone turning her back on me, since it will mostly be in my house. I don't like that. So I will be altering it a little bit, and I also feel like that niggling craving, which feels like her suggestion to do so. And when it comes to whether you like make art or, you know, do some sort of offering, some sort of calling for your deity, I think a lot of times the craving comes in, the inkling, and then it comes down to you go to do the thing or make the thing, yada yada yada, and the perfectionism kicks in. There is a sense of me worrying constantly, like this is not good enough to give as an offering to my deity. And especially when it comes in the form of art, I can get super critical at times about artistic offerings. When they're sketchy and easy, I've noticed that like if there's a destructive element to them, aka if I draw a sketch and then burn it in my cauldron, or have the concept of like taking a piece of paper and then burying it somewhere, something like that, that does not bother me nearly as much as I thought it would, because the ultimate end goal of it is destruction. It's not something that feels a little more permanent and something of like a, yeah, here's my thing, please look and judge. And whether or not, even if I would ever have put this onto the internet like I now am doing, I did this about a month ago, and I kept looking at it thinking like, oh, I need to fiddle with it and fix it, and I think I'm gonna do like black stain instead on the background so then she really stands out more, and I definitely want to redo her face, and that bothers me, and you know, this is like encroaching on her arm here and I don't know how I feel about that. Like, the judgment is real, specifically when it comes to art offerings that I do for my deities. So often I get into this loop, and then eventually it does feel a little bit like the craving turns from wanting to make this nice thing for them as an offering in a sense, and then instead turns to almost like a placating, like a whoo feeling, like a hold back. Yet no, we want nice things, we want effort, but you don't need to go so over the top with it. These interesting urges, I think, that pop up in our minds sometimes can be so subtle and so easy, and they can seem very, very mundane. And to a lot of people, I think they are very mundane. They're, you know, little voices that are your interior monologue, and how you're interpreting them is entirely biased and up to you. For me, they're really important to listen to because I think there is a huge sacredness to them. I think that's a lot of times more sacred and more important than we give it real credence to. You know, when you repeat the negative thoughts in your head often enough, they become a habitual thing, and then slowly but surely you can start losing some self-esteem. Same thing if you repeat good thoughts overall and like encourage yourself to think highly and kind about your things. It just out of habit can build up. Not gonna fix or completely destroy anything for sure, but it's you know, it's assisting in making sure your brain is working in the right direction to help these things. And a little inkling in the back of my mind when it comes to my art and these offerings, who is honking? I think it can be very helpful because a lot of times it does. It has this sense of, oh my goodness, they're doing it to annoy me. Perfection is and forever will be entirely unattainable. Nobody is perfect. One thing that I really love about exploring different pantheons when it comes to paganism is how often so many gods are depicted as flawed with multiple facets to them and layers, and so if the gods can be flawed, then so can I, even if I'm giving something to something that I believe is divine and of a possible higher, better, I don't know, more evolved, energetic situation than I currently am in. I don't know. I'm fuzzy on the details when it comes to that, as we all are until we die, but yeah. Kind of something I wanted to share with everyone. Have it up. You know that, like, yeah, the inklings and the offerings to the deities is not always like a Zeus came down with a thunderbolt and told you how to live your life. Sometimes it's very subtle, very okie dokie, and it doesn't always have to be perfect. Like, it's just sometimes just a little niggling you have in the back of your mind. I want to do this thing, and I'm gonna go push forward with it and see what I can do and make from there. Of course, I'm still going to make some edits to this, and then eventually it will make its way to my quote-unquote official altar over in my bedroom, and I'll light a lovely candle for Persephone. I feel like this is kind of my happy return to the underworld gift for her this year. Like, can't wait till you're back down there, mama. Have fun. You know? Anyway, this has been another video for the lovely YouTubers. Comment down below, what do you do when you're offering stuff to deities? How do your deities, if you work with them at all, how do you feel that nudge is when you're feeling the urge to do an offering? Is it like a little inkling in the back of your mind? Do you mostly wait for a very large sign or a dream, something that's kind of hard to refute? Or you just offer whatever you feel like offering? You know, it doesn't have to be such a big hullabaloo. All of that stuff in the comments down below. And I will see you guys tomorrow. Bye-bye.